Hello everyone, Stormy One here. Today we'll be talking about the potential for some showers and even a couple of thunderstorms tomorrow for parts of central and northern Kentucky. We got a chillier weekend ahead, and we got a big storm system that we are tracking towards the middle of next week. Let's get started. A watch warning advisory display across the country. Pretty quiet out there. You got a couple of winter weather alerts in the northeast, and it looks like some wind issues across parts of the northern plains and even towards Montana. And that's really about it. Still pretty quiet out there today. Not only has it been quiet, but it's also been pretty warm. It's been warm and dry across Kentucky. Highs were in the upper 60s to around 70 north of 64. South of I-64 was in the low to mid 70s. And if you go down towards the Tennessee border into west central Kentucky, where we got temperature readings even getting into the upper 70s out there. And if we check out the warmest Mesna site from today was Hopkins County in western Kentucky, reached a high temperature of 77 degrees. So that's pretty warm. And Bowling Green hit 78 degrees, which ties their record high temperature, which was set back in 1917. So a record high tied in Bowling Green. So it was a very, very warm day. And temperatures right now is trending a lot cooler out there, especially in those colder valleys. You can see how those colder valleys are really dropping like a rock with temperatures already getting down to the low 50s in those colder valleys in parts of central and eastern Kentucky. And we got some rain out there too. We could pull up radar real quick. We got a little bit of rain out there. Especially towards western Kentucky here. And we can see here out towards western Kentucky we got some showers that are ongoing out there. And we even got a severe thunderstorm warning in southwestern Indiana. Got a pretty strong storm out there. Main hazard with that would be hail. And there's been a report of quarter-sized hail north of Evansville. So yeah, we got that ongoing this evening here, and we may see some action like that tomorrow. And let's talk about tomorrow here. So we'll check out the HRRR, the 18Z run. So here's that rain kind of coming in for later this evening here. Not going to be terribly widespread here. Going to be quick hitting line and some showers. Could be heavy enough to wash some of the salt off the roads, which I don't think anybody would be complaining about that. And rainfall amounts will probably be anywhere from a few hundredths of an inch to maybe upwards of 2/10 of an inch of rain. And we get a break, late Thursday morning into the early afternoon. And then by the middle of the afternoon, we start to see some showers and even a couple of storms pop up towards southern Indiana. And you can see how some of those move into central and northern Kentucky here to get through mid to late afternoon on Thursday into the evening hours. And you can see how those storms kind of move into eastern Kentucky by late Thursday evening. And some of these storms could be on the strong side here. Now, tomorrow is a very interesting setup here. You'll notice tomorrow that the temperatures are not going to be all that warm. Highs tomorrow will generally be in the 50s, mid to upper 50s, with dew points that are going to be in the 40s. Now, with that type of environment, normally that's not really favorable for strong storms. Well, if you take into account of the very cold temperatures aloft, then yes, you can. If we check out those 700 millibar temperatures, you can see here how those temperatures are very cold up there. So what's happening here is that we're having an upper level low that's going to pass through the Ohio Valley. And normally with upper level lows, they like to pull down the very cold air in the upper parts of the atmosphere closer to the surface, which helps increase instability. And really you don't need very warm temperatures to get instability with setups like these. If we check out the 3-kilometer cape here, and you can see here we got some pretty good numbers of instability out there across especially central and northern Kentucky here, and even getting into eastern Kentucky towards Thursday evening. And if we check out surface-based instability, we actually got numbers going over 500 joules per kilogram up along parts of the Ohio River in Northern, Kentucky, and southeastern Indiana. Now, with the modeling not handling temperatures very well, it wouldn't surprise me if the modeling ends up underestimating the warmth of the temperatures a little bit for tomorrow, which could help increase those instability values out there. Now, with a setup like this tends to favor some hail in the strongest storms. Now, if more instability is realized, then you could be talking about the potential for quarter-sized hail, like that storm that's ongoing in southwestern Indiana. And I think the better opportunity for a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings would probably be up towards northern Kentucky, southern Ohio, and probably parts of southeastern Indiana up there. I think up in that area has the better opportunity to get a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. And the main hazard would be hail. Could be some strong gusty winds. That could be a possibility. Don't see a tornado risk with this here. Wind shear values are too weak towards the surface here, and especially with the drier dew points, it's going to be pretty difficult to get tornadoes with dew points in the 40s. It tends to be pretty difficult to achieve, but it's not impossible though. So with that system moving out of the Ohio Valley here, we for Friday it's another windier day here. It's also the winds turn more towards the west, so temperatures will be a little bit warmer for Friday, but we do have a dry cold front that comes through here, and the cold front coming in Friday night and into Saturday morning, it's going to be moisture starved, so it's not going to have hardly any moisture with it, which means there's not going to be any rain with it, but the winds will be gusty. Wind gusts could approach 35 miles an hour on Friday, and then Saturday the winds are not as strong, but it's definitely going to be chillier. And as we get into Sunday here, we get that high pressure going over the Ohio Valley, which means the temperatures are going to stay cold. Highs may struggle to get out of the 30s for your Sunday, with morning lows. Sunday morning will be deep in the 20s, and I cannot rule out some upper teens in some of the colder valleys of eastern Kentucky. Now Monday morning will be another cold morning, probably lows in the 20s, but then we get that southerly wind to kick up Monday afternoon, which will help warm up the temperatures. Temperatures warm up into the 40s, probably some low 50s out there, especially towards southern and western Kentucky. And then by Tuesday, here comes our next system here, and you can see here that big system there ejects out of the Rockies Tuesday morning, and you can see how this is a pretty strong low, 989 millibar low in southeastern Nebraska. That's a pretty strong low, and with a setup like this here, this could favor severe weather in the warm sector. And this is the thing we gotta watch for in Kentucky, is because we are going to be in the warm sector for this system here. And now the exact timing is going to change from run to run here. You're going to see some timing differences with the models since we're still several days away. But all in the models got a pretty similar idea with this. This is the European model. If I were to move over to the GFS, which is the American model, you kind of see a similar thing here. It's a little bit farther south. It's also a little bit weaker, but it's still a stronger system out there. And even though with that, and despite that, Kentucky's still in the warm sector for this storm system here. So really the time frame to watch for this system here is going to be, Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. And also with a stronger storm system like this, there could be some pretty strong winds out there. Especially with a low that goes below, 990 millibars. It wouldn't surprise me if we get some wind advisory criteria winds, which means winds greater than 40 miles an hour could be possible outside of those showers and storms, and especially behind the front as well, as some drier air tries to kick in behind the system out there as well. And we may also have to watch out the potential for some localized flooding issues, because there is that outside chance for a general 1 to 2 inch rainfall out of the system, so that would be another thing to watch as well. And we can look into more models with this as well. If we look into the European ensembles here, you can see here how the agreement is actually pretty strong, especially for this range here. It's got a mean of 994 millibars in northern Illinois, as a mean for the surface low. But if you check out a lot of these numbers here, you'll notice a lot of these members here do go below 990 millibars. But either way, this is still a pretty powerful system here rolling through the Midwest. It will definitely bring some high wind issues into Kentucky. And you see how that low moves up through the Great Lakes region and eventually moves out of here, a little later next week. And if we look into the GFS ensembles here, you'll see pretty much a similar thing here. The agreement's not as impressive, but it has the same theme for this system here. A strengthening low pressure. Let me backtrack a little bit. A strengthening low pressure system moving across the Midwest region, moving into the Great Lakes, and these are the type of lows we really got to watch for, because with a strengthening low pressure system, that means those wind fields increase. The wind fields get stronger, and we can look into the 500 millibar winds real quick here. This is from the European model. You can see how the trough is going to be set up here, and there's a few important things to note about this. So if I go back towards Monday of next week, you can see we got this huge trough that digs into the western part of the country here. Now at this point here, it's kind of more of a positively tilt trough, but it digs all the way down to northern Mexico, which down in here is the source of what's known as the elevated mixed layer. So the let me do a better job with this, the EML. So this is the source of the elevated mixed layer, and normally when we have the elevated mixed layer mixing with severe weather steps, it increases potential, and it tends to add more instability to the atmosphere. So with it tapping into the source of the elevated mixed layer, we can expect there could be an elevated mixed layer with this system here as it moves into Kentucky, and not just Kentucky, but really areas along and east of the Mississippi River, and even west of the Mississippi River as well, going to have that dry air mixing in the upper parts of the atmosphere. So this is getting into Tuesday here. So our low is somewhere up here. So our low is up here. And you see how the trough is now becoming more Nutri-tilt. So, and with a Nutri-tilt trough, you can see here we get more divergence aloft out ahead of it. That means the winds are spreading apart away, which helps increase more lift out ahead of the trough, and you can get some bigger storms that form out ahead of it. Let me move that down a little bit. And you can see here, at the same time as this low here strengthens here, it may become more negatively tilt. So you kind of go from a positively tilt trough to Nutri-tilt to maybe negatively tilt. And with the trough being like that, that can really enhance the severe weather potential. And normally the negatively tilt troughs usually tends to bring the more significant severe weather, especially if you got the thermodynamics in place, which is dew points, temperatures, and instability in place here. So, and you can see here how the winds start to get stronger in here as that system there gains strength, and even as the trough becomes a little more negatively tilt, the winds do become stronger out there. So then you start to see a jet streak kind of develop here. And if you don't know what a jet streak is, that's an area of stronger winds in a more confined area, which in this case here from the European model, it's over Arkansas. And really out ahead of that jet streak is where you're probably going to see the best lift out of this system here, which would be in these areas in here. Now, if you get the more favorable thermodynamics in here, that can really ramp up the severe weather potential. And probably the greatest chance of that is It's going to be down towards Dixie Alley, like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, even back towards Arkansas and Louisiana. Back in those areas will likely have favorable thermos to support severe weather, and that's probably where the greatest confidence is for severe weather at the moment. Then the northern extent is a little more uncertain. We don't know if or how high the dew points are going to be or how warm the temperatures are, and we don't even know the exact timing. Is it going to come for the nighttime or is it going to come for peak time heating? Those are questions that'll be ironed out in a few more days out there. So it's something to watch out there. But there's definitely strong severe storm potential for us here in Kentucky with this system here. And the wind dynamics will be very favorable for severe weather. It just all comes down to the timing and how the thermodynamics are set up in Kentucky. So those are the two main things we're really keeping an eye on, which also the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America, whatever you want to call it down there, will be wide open for moisture return. And something I learned from a professor is that if we go back here to a precip height map, if you have more than 3 isobars coming out of the Gulf, that means that the Gulf is wide open for moisture return. So if we count, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even upwards of 7 isobars. So that is more than enough, and that tells me that the Gulf is wide open, and it's easy to get those very favorable 60 plus dew points farther up north, especially if we were talking about a stronger system here like the European model is suggesting. Now, the dew point side of things won't be ironed out until probably within a couple of days of this event. So I would say we'll probably have a pretty good idea of the system here. I probably want to say as early as Sunday. So for right now, it's something to watch, but there is quite a bit of potential for the system here. So going back over the potential here, we could see strong severe storms, maybe some localized flooding issues, and some high winds outside of showers of storms. Wind gusts potentially exceeding 40 miles an hour outside of those showers and storms. So after that system there passes through here, temperatures cool back down behind it. European model suggests potential for mixed precipitation in eastern Kentucky Thursday afternoon. We'll see about that. Air could be cold enough for some snowflakes, maybe try to fly out there, but it's too early to tell. But really towards late next week is the next storm system, which in this case here the European model has a much southern tracks across the deep south into the Carolinas. In that case, tries to bring a chance for wintry precipitation. However, not much of anything is set in stone right now. There's not much. The model agreement's not very good. If I were to look into the American model for that same system late next week, it's got a pretty similar track here, but it also has another storm towards the north as well, which could really change of how the system here could progress. But the best way to look at the uncertainty is the ensembles. So if we were to check out the European ensembles here, you can see how big the spread is for late next week. You got members all the way up towards the I-70 corridor in Indiana and Ohio, and other members that take it all the way down towards the Gulf Coast. So you got several 100-mile spread of where this low here could track, and that could really determine what we could see late next week, though it is too early to hone in on a certain scenario right now. And one last thing we'll check is the GFS ensembles. You can see here better agreement than the European ensembles. It's farther up north. It takes a low track generally over Kentucky, but then again we're about 10 days out, so this can easily change as we get closer. But after that system passes through here, looking down the road deeper into March, especially mid to late March. So this is a 5-day mean. So this is from March 14th through the 19th. using the GFS ensemble's mean. So this is the 500 millibar geopotential height anomalies. So this is where you can see where your troughs and ridges would be in place. And I'll tell you guys this, for this far out, this is a pretty impressive agreement, and the signal is quite strong for this pattern to happen. So what's the pattern for mid to late March? Well, what we got here is a southeast ridge. We got a ridge that covers basically the entire eastern U.S. You got a ridge that covers nearly the entire East Coast out there, which would bring widespread warmth across the entire eastern U.S. At the same time, we got a big trough that digs down into the western U.S. and it basically covers the entire western U.S. Out there. With this type of pattern, this would support severe weather. This is a very favorable look for big severe weather events in here. This would be the area to really watch. Right in here is the area I would really keep an eye on for severe weather potential during this time frame here, because not only there's very strong model agreement, but it's also been very consistent, and analogs also strongly support this idea as well. And really, you know, just overall, it's just something to really keep an eye on, because really when I'm looking to this upcoming spring, which I may talk more about on Friday, this upcoming spring could be a very active one. When we look at analogs, which if you don't know what an analog is, it's basically a time period in the past, or like an analog year, a year in the past that's very similar to this upcoming pattern, or similar to what it's been. So a year in the past that looks very similar to what we've been dealing with. So right now, for what's been going on and what looks like in the future, the closest analog year is 2011, which some weather enthusiasts know that was a very nasty severe weather year that had the most severe weather reports, or even the most tornadoes ever recorded in a severe weather season. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to repeat itself, but it can be similar to it. So that's why everybody is really watching this time frame very closely here, because it strongly supports a very active period for severe weather, and it could last for a long period of time as well. So definitely keep an eye on mid to late March out there. So yeah, on that, and I'll talk more about this on Friday. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys liked this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys got any questions, leave the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.